Hey everybody, today we are going to talk about what is probably the most iconic plugin of all time. An ancient software instrument known even to people who don't spend all their time in front of FL Studio. And in spite of the fact that it was written by a bunch of students in their dorm room in the early 2000s, had a cultural impact comparable to music industry staples like Serum. This is a love letter to Delay Lama. Released in 2002 by Audio Nerds, a Dutch university project turned virtual company, the Freeware plugin boasts a track record otherwise associated with classic top-shelf software like Massive or Silent One. You can hear it as the main synth lead on Timmy Trumpet's 2014 smash hit Freaks with over 1 billion streams on YouTube and Spotify, and before Timbaland became the AI Antichrist, he used it prominently on Madonna's Devil Wouldn't Recognize You. However, traditional music industry success is only part of this story, and Delay Lama has a long history of being featured in computer game music with Paper Mario, Trackmania, F-Zero GX and Tekken 5 being just the tip of the iceberg. Those of you who still have an offline life might be surprised to hear that our beloved chanting Tibetan has an even more impressive career as an internet culture icon. It might not only be the only VST plugin that made it onto lessons in meme culture, it also has its own Know Your Meme entry for a reason. In addition to viral cover versions on very early YouTube, there was a huge trend of Delay Lama based takes on anime theme songs and other well-known pieces of music on the Japanese video platform Nico Nico, raking in millions of views. The growing popularity of the plugin led to another wave of hyper-successful videos on YouTube in the early 2010s, with a charmingly wonky Skrillex cover getting more views than most synthfluencer channels. While it seemed like Delay Lama would fall into oblivion in the following years, the YouTube algorithm started pushing old videos like the aforementioned Sonny Moore homage in the early 2020s, causing yet another avalanche of singing monk-based content, including a very interesting controversy we will talk about in a bit. The success story of Delay Lama is unparalleled in the world of electronic musical instruments, so I think it is about time to take a deep dive into the genesis of the plugin. In order to do the rich legacy of Delay Lama justice and keep speculations to an absolute minimum, I had a little chat with one of its creators, Steve Crosswick. Together with his colleagues Aram and Dan, he attended an audio design course held by AudioPilz mastermind Arjen van der Schoot. This course revolved around a project inspired by the open source audio software C-Sound, and when playing around with its FOF object specialized in granular and formant synthesis, he stumbled upon
the basic C-Sound soprano played really low, and I thought, that sounds like a cartoon monk. So that's essentially how Delay Lama was born.
While other ideas of that kind tend to remain a pipe dream, our three heroes had no choice because
it was part of our study. We had to do it to graduate that course.
These were the heydays of the VST revolution, and it seemed like goofy freeware instruments were released every day. However, there are two major aspects about Delay Lama that made it stand out. First of all, it is not some janky synth-edit contraption, but a polished and smooth-running VST instrument. The original C-Sound elements were rewritten in C++, and the trio got some help from their mentor of Altiverb fame when it came to getting into a developer's mindset and fixing minor bugs.
Arjen, the AudioPilz guy, he really taught us about how good it is to really finish something.
The second and probably even more important reason why Delay Lama is still revered today, it's a freaking singing monk.
I've always been quite philosophical and interested in spiritual stuff, and Buddhism appealed to me.
The iconic monk animation created by the fourth member of Audio Nerds and then animation student Frank Post is both dignified and adorably funny. Although the plugin has always been free of charge, satisfied users are encouraged to donate to the international campaign for Tibet.
If you're making like a singing monk, then you're kind of appropriating that culture, so it felt right to do something in that direction.
In contrast to general belief, there is no real 3D engine running inside the plugin.
It's just a huge bitmap of like 36 images that get shuffled around.
Although Delay Lama isn't exactly known for being the most well-maintained plugin, a topic we will cover a little later, the underlying technology found its way into other software products.
There's a version of Steinberg Cubasis which has a Christian version of Delay Lama called Brother Gregory. Oh, by the way, I'm forgetting, we also made an effect version for Spectrosonics.
The latter might have also triggered the recent discussion on whether Delay Lama was used in the Splatoon soundtrack. The biting the vowels lead in Omnisphere does indeed sound very similar. Unfortunately, another promising Audio Nerds instrument never saw the light of day.
We're thinking about making like a super advanced fart synthesizer. Dan, one of the other guys that we developed with, experimenting for another course with linear predictive coding, LPC, and it could really sound very good like farts.
Now that we have taken a look at the historical and cultural aspects of Delay Lama, we can focus on the technical side of the plugin and why it is getting increasingly difficult to actually use it for making music. As mentioned before, Delay Lama is at its core a very simple formant synth, mimicking the sound of the human voice by generating
the peaks that your voice makes when you make a vowel. A is like 2 peaks and E is 2 other peaks. People can look this up, but it's a really simple synthesis algorithm. It's just a couple of sine waves on the frequency of those formants.
However, none of this really matters when actually using the plugin. Either just click and drag on the Tibetan flag to control pitch and vowel, or play the instrument via MIDI with a dedicated portamento parameter. There's also a horizontal fader for dialing in the eponymous delay, and the head size parameter lets you shift the formant range. The built-in help screen is much appreciated, as is the great MIDI implementation with an additional vibrato parameter not found on the screen UI. You might be missing fancy stuff like velocity, polyphony, or even a simple envelope though. I would say it is time to address the elephant in the room. Delay Lama hasn't been updated for years. It is 32-bit only, and while Windows users can still make it work in modern DAWs using a wrapper, I haven't found a way to run it on post-Catalina Apple computers. That being said, it lives on in my SM Pro Audio V machine, albeit without the glorious UI. And I'm using an old PC as a host controlled from my main computer. Speaking of which, Steve told me a little story that might reveal the true purpose of the plugin.
I was invited by some guys from the psychedelic trance community, and that just brought I made Delay Lama, and the people were like, what? Apparently there were festivals that year in the summer where just entire evening was all Delay Lama.
Chances are that you, like me, are asking yourself,
when will the update come?
It would indeed be awesome to have a contemporary release with cross-platform 64-bit compatibility and a few additional features like polyphony, ADSRs, and maybe even a transgate. But in the end, we all know that the only way to preserve Delay Lama for future generations is a full-fledged hardware version. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to like, subscribe, become a patron, and use one of the links down below that support the channel regardless of what your gas commands you to buy.